What's up, guys? Today we are doing something that's not a meme video. We are taking a very serious and very constructive deep dive into Monopoly, what it is, what it means. Mostly just a tier list, actually. I lied. It's just a tier list. So we're gonna take a trip around the board with some little detours here and there in between, and we're going to rank every single unique space on the Monopoly board and see where it lies, and see just how well balanced the board is, and see how good of a board game it is just based on its layout as a whole. So first we're going to take a look at Mediterranean and Baltic Avenue, the brown spaces on the board, aka the poopy spaces. And I'm going to put these not in F tier or D tier, I'm going to put these in C tier. These spaces have come in clutch many a time for me in a game of Monopoly. In strategies where you want as many houses as possible to choke out your opponents from being able to develop their properties. These are very important because the price per house is the lowest on the brown spaces, because unlike some people, I play by the actual rules of Monopoly. So when you run out of houses, you can't just put a marker or a token and have it signify a house. The house is, there's only a finite amount of houses, and once you're out, no one else can develop further until a hotel's built or they demolish one. So it really makes your opponent have to think and reconsider and change up their strategy if you're able to lock them out of houses. The next spot we're going to talk about on the board is the income tax. Income tax is probably the suckiest space on the board. It's $200 or 10% of your wealth, and it's either gonna just cause someone to spend $200 that they just got on Go, or spend 10 minutes trying to figure out what 10% of their total worth is. At the end of the day, it doesn't really directly benefit yourself because your opponent is spending money to something else other than paying rent to you. So, and worst case scenario, you're the one paying it, and that's not helping anybody. So I think income tax is going in the F tier. I think it's just a space that you do not want to land on ever, or see get landed on, because it doesn't advance the game in any real meaningful way. The next set of spaces we have are Vermont, Oriental, and Connecticut Avenue. These are, again, in the lockout of the houses situation, WinCon. These blue spaces are very important for that. It's the second cheapest housing you can get, plus you can get an extra set of 4 on this. And no one really values these if they're inexperienced. The next section, we're going to do this, it's the railroad section. Okay, Reading Railroad, the first one, it's in between the blue and the brown. I'm going to put this top of B. I mean, it feels like these are going to get landed on fairly often. There's a lot of, pass go, collect 200 cards that you can draw from. You can get there pretty easily. People are going to land on it first thing, which isn't great, but you can pick it up. It's an early property. You can use it as a bargaining chip down the road. The next railroad that gets landed on is Pennsylvania Railroad. This one's going slightly above, just simply for the fact that when people are sent to jail, the most likely roll is 7, and only a couple below it is 5. So the Pennsylvania Railroad is very likely to get landed on. B&O Railroad is going to go below Reading. These are pretty much the same, in my opinion. And then the bottom one is the Short Line Railroad. Short Line isn't going to get landed on as much because it's past the go to jail space in the corner. This one doesn't get landed on statistically as often, so I'm going to put it bottom of C. The railroads in and of themselves don't really contribute to your general game plan, I don't think. I think they're a good bargaining chip or a piece to sweeten the pot. I don't think that if you buy all 4 of the properties that you're going to win. That's not really viable, but at the same time, you could be doing a lot worse with your money. So that's, top of B, top of C. That seems fair for the railroads. The next spot is States, St. Charles, and Virginia Avenues. These spaces are absolutely incredible. You've got a fairly high likelihood of landing on these coming out of jail. They are inexpensive to develop on. Again, pulling into the light blue and the brown house lockout situation. These are just really good properties, honestly, overall. The return on investment in these can be incredible. You're not going to blow someone out every single time like you would if someone landed on like a hotel boardwalk or something. But the amount of times that you're going to do some substantial damage and pretty much put someone so far behind that they can't catch up by landing on one of these with development on it, it's insane. Next, we are going to look at the Chance and Community Chest. The Chance is going to go in D tier, only because it's statistically more likely to land on a bad draw with Chance than you are with Community Chest, which I'm going to put in the B tier. Community Chest, unlike Chance, you're more likely to land on something good with your draw. Oranges, Tennessee Ave, St. James Place, New York Avenue. These are S tier properties. These are backbreaking to land on late in the game if you don't own them. Also, when you come out of jail, the most likely roll to have is a 7. New York Avenue is an 8, I believe. St. James Place is a 6. So, I mean, look at those odds right there just for that. These are just in a very high traffic area of the board, and it's tough to come back if you land on one of these. Snatch these up as soon as you can in pretty much any game of Monopoly. Next, we're going to look at the jail corners. Go to jail is going to be a C tier spot. Going to jail early on isn't great because you're not collecting your 200 from Go. You're not collecting any other property. You're going over properties that have already been bought up. Once you get out, I mean, you can pay the 50, but still, the amount of property that you have available to you, it puts you behind more times than not. In jail, I'm going to put top of C just to make it look a little bit more fun. Being in jail late game isn't the worst because you're not spending money on others' rental fees and such. I mean, 3 turns in jail can be enough to just win the game as other players are going around and spending mad amounts of money on developed property and losing the game while you're just chilling. Up next, we have the red property going around the board, Indiana, Kentucky, and Illinois Avenue. These are also S tier. They go hand in hand with the oranges. If you can pick up these very warm and autumn colored pieces of the board, you're in a very good position to win the game. Put up a couple houses, and these red spots are absolutely devastating. Next to the red, we have the yellows. The yellows are going to go in A tier. They are kind of like the bigger brother of the magenta pieces. They're a little bit more expensive to develop on and to the initial purchase, but the return is insane. Again, for some reason, it just doesn't feel like people land on these very often, in my experience. They either just get skipped right over, they land on the railroad before or something, but when it hits, it really hits. These are pretty crazy, and just if you have control of like one side of the board, these are going to be the ones that you want to have control of. These are the highest traffic areas of the game, and if you can lock up a couple of these, you're doing pretty good. Next is free parking. Easy S tier because you get all of the money in the middle from all of the fees and the taxes and all of that stuff. No, just kidding. Free parking is going to go in the D tier. Nothing really happens. So like you're not advancing your game, but it's also not hurting you. Probably above Chance just because Chance probably gives you something bad, but free parking really isn't anything. It's just free parking. It's just a spot to set your token down on, but nothing really exciting about free parking. Go is going to go bottom of C tier. The Go space itself is not that important. As you pass Go, that's when you collect your salary. So the space itself isn't really that important. It could be anything. Passing it is good, but again, nothing bad happens. Only good things can happen, so I'm going to put it bottom of C. Electric Company and Waterworks, I'm going to go D tier. These are probably the worst properties to pick up. If you own one, the most money you can get back on it is $48, and if you have both, it's $120 back, so you're really not getting anything back for your investment. I mean, it's a good little bargaining chip. It's really not much worth writing home about. I usually stray away from these. Okay, getting into the home stretch, we're on the final side of the board. The green Pacific Avenue is going to go in C tier. These are very expensive properties. Again, kind of like the yellows. Landing on this can be devastating if it's developed, but it's super expensive to do so, and it has the misfortune of coming right after the go to jail space, which a lot of the game centers around going to jail and landing on it and just visiting, and honestly just passing it completely from the community chest or chance card and going to go and just completely circumventing that side of the board. It's just a really tough spot to have people consistently land on, and I got to put in C for that reason. Next is luxury tax. I'm going to put that in F tier alongside the income tax. whether it's 75 or 100 like it's been in the revised edition. The luxury tax really, again, just like the income tax, it's not doing anything to advance your own game state. It's just hurting your opponent or hurting yourself. So for that reason, it's got to go in F. And finally, we are going into the blues at the end of the board, Park Place and Boardwalk. And just like the greens, they are tough to develop and get landed on consistently. And for that reason, Park Place and Boardwalk are going in the D tier. They're just too expensive, and there's only 2 of them, so it's even less likely that someone is going to land on them on any given roll. They can get bypassed. They can land on the luxury tax in between. It's just really, really tough to get enough funds to develop all of Boardwalk and all of Park Place, and then to get someone to land on one of them. It's just crazy. I mean, it's really tough to get that going. Looking over this, everything looks very evenly distributed. Honestly, it's kind of surprising how even the distribution is of this game that was created almost 100 years ago. There's nothing really I would change. I think this is pretty resolute and factual. There's nothing that needs to be changed or even could be changed, honestly. I mean, this is the be-all, end-all of the board. If you disagree, you're wrong, but feel free to let me know in the comments. Unsubscribe and dislike. Thanks for watching.